Having the right tool for the job is so important. Having the right tools for the job can make the job easier, more enjoyable, not stress you out so much. And as laborers that we are, we all have those tools for whatever that we do, whatever our career is that we just love, and it just helps us. We can't go any day without it. And as long as we have that, as long as we have that tool in our arsenal, we know we can accomplish what we need to accomplish. And that's no different for photographers and filmmakers. We have the tools that we need. We have the tools that just make the job easier. Now, there are the tools that are, of course, necessity, that are quite obvious, such as camera and lens. And of course, we could go a little deeper into that. Like, what kind of lens do you need for this particular job? Are you doing a portrait session? Do you need your 50, your 85? Are you shooting a wedding? Should you take your primes? Should you take all your zooms? What's the best way to do it to be able for you to accomplish what is expected as the photographer or filmmaker at a wedding? And as well as the lenses, you got the lighting that you might take. Filmmakers, we have microphones. Like, do all we need is a boom mic? Should I have some lapel mics? Do I need an on-camera mic? There are those things to consider, of course, and those are things that anyone thinks of when it comes to filmmaking and photography. So I want to talk about some tools that I use regularly on a daily basis that when I first started off doing filmmaking and photography, I never even considered these. I never even thought of them. Some of them I actually didn't even know existed. And through my photography and filmmaking career and running into all these obstacles that I'm like, man, if I just had this little tool, just this little something, just to make this part of my job easier, would be awesome. In this video, I want to talk about 12 items that are always in my bag, that always go with me no matter what the job is. And having these 12 items, I'm for sure going to use them. Every one of these will get used, no matter if it's filmmaking, no matter if it's photography, no matter if it's a wedding, no matter if it's a portrait session, no matter if it's a commercial shoot, it doesn't matter. These things get used all the time. So first off, the first 3 items, these are items that are actually in my pocket. I never leave home without these items. And the first is a knife. It is so surprising how this little knife probably gets used the most, probably more than my camera. This is like the ultimate multi-tool. I use it, of course, for cutting things, of course. I use it for opening things. I also use it as a screwdriver sometimes when there's a flathead and I don't have a flathead nearby, this makes a great screwdriver. I also use it to pry things apart when that needs. There's just so many things that I use a knife for, other than what it's made to do. I'm not really much of a knife enthusiast. I don't need a whole bunch of knives. I just need one good tiny one. This one's big enough for me. So this next item that is in my pocket, and it's actually 2 items, but they go together. I just been recently carrying around these in my pocket and every day, and it has been a huge lifesaver. Things that I would stress about, this has relieved so much stress having this in my pocket. And that's just simply a notebook and a pen. This is a waterproof notebook from Field Notes. I keep it in my back pocket. You can see it is quite worn. I am constantly writing in this. Usually the first thing I do to start my day is I put a to-do list of the things that I want to accomplish that day. And then from there, anything that I need to remember, you don't understand how much a small pen and a small notebook can really just make life so much easier. And this pen is great. It's very small and tiny. It goes in your pocket very well, and then when you open it up and put it together, it makes the perfect size pen to hold and to write with. It's got good weight to it, and this of course is waterproof paper. It writes on this paper very well. You do have to kind of fan it off a bit after you write it to get it to dry so it won't smear so much, but it holds up very well after that. And I'm sure you're like, why wouldn't you just use your phone? There's a notes app in there, and you're totally right. And I used to try to do that, but the problem is every time I would go to put down a note or to go read the note, I would get distracted. Sometimes the first thing I would do is I would open my phone to look at a note, and the first thing I do is open TikTok. Not even meaning to, it's just like a force of habit, or open Facebook or Instagram, or I would be looking at my notes, be writing down a note, and then I get a text message or a phone call or something. The thing about a notebook is that it cannot receive notifications. It does not have TikTok on it. It's just paper. And all it has is your ideas and the things that you need to remember. The next thing is what I have on my keychain, and something I would always be leaving at home every time I went on a job or something is a multi-tool. I would get to the job and I wouldn't have anything to use to unscrew things with. Now, I did have my knife to do flatheads, but it was mainly like anything with that needed an Allen key. I didn't have any way to unscrew it. And so that's why I bought this little keychain. This really tiny little keychain. This is really hard to show because it's so small. but one end has a flathead and the other end has an Allen key. And it's just the perfect size. It's the perfect tool. I still prefer to take a multi-tool with me, and I always make sure there's one in my bag, but if I forget it, I always have my keys on me. My keys are always in my pocket, and I know if I forget that, then I always have that, and that is such, oh, it's such a big relief to remember that you have that. So the next set of stuff I want to talk about is camera mounting. Certain things that just really helped to go from like one tripod to another. When I'm doing weddings, I find myself needing to switch my camera from my monopod over to my tripod. And sometimes you just want to go handheld, so you just need to be able to remove your camera as quickly as possible. Sometimes I want to go to the gimbal, and I just want to be able to take my camera off the monopod, put it straight to the gimbal, and be ready to go without having to unscrew the plate and put on the proper plate for the proper mount on the tripod or monopod or gimbal. It's just easier if it's all the same. And we all know the worst thing about mounting plates, about tripod plates, are the size. And they're usually bulky and they're ugly looking, they're gross and like almost embarrassing. They just make your camera not look cool, right? Like it's embarrassing to have those things on there. And I know myself, and I know a lot of other photographers who are friends of mine and other photographers that I know, they like to take them off because, well, they're ugly. They're inconvenient in a sense until you need them. And the problem is they would forget to put it on when they know that they were going to need it. So what I wanted to find was a plate that could stay on my camera all the time, that looks good on my camera, that complements my camera, and that is not that bulky. And a great plate for this is Peaks Design Arca Plate. This thing is fantastic. All my equipment, anything that can get mounted on a tripod or anything, has this plate. I just happen to have the box because, well, I'm about to put it on some more cameras. As you can see here, it is just so tiny. It is so flat. It's not very big at all. It is the perfect size. And something I really love about having this particular mount is one of the things that I hated with other Arca mounts was how thick they were. So when I'm using my bigger camera and I want to use the vertical grip, I would have the other plates here, and they were so big and they bothered my hand and they made it so awkward to hold. But the Arca plate from Peak Design is so nice and flat that you honestly hardly notice. The camera grip still fits in my hand perfectly. It doesn't feel like anything's in the way. It doesn't feel awkward. And I never need to take them off. And of course, if you're gonna have everything have the same plate and you want to be able to mount them on anything, all your tripods and all your mounting systems need to have an Arca quick release. And it was actually really hard to find a quick release that could actually fit on any mounting system. A lot of time I would find one, and for instance, like Manfrotto, they have archetypes, but only their archetype plates work for their archetype quick releases. And they weren't the only company that did that. Something else I would have a hard time finding is something flat enough to fit on like a fluid head. All of the quick releases I would find would have like a huge knob on it that either it just couldn't fit because it wasn't flat enough, or if it was flat enough, it was too small for me to reach my hand in between the camera and there to unscrew it. So it became very hard to find a quick release that worked with Peaks Design archetype and that it was also flat enough to fit onto any mounting system, that any tripod, any monopod, any fluid head, any video head. It was really hard to find one that worked, but I finally found one, and I don't have one to show you. I'll put a screenshot of one up on there. I'm using one right now to hold up my camera, and they're all on my other stuff at this moment. And this quick release is just perfect. So of course, if I'm only doing filmmaking, I'm only using video heads, and I can just switch out the plates before I leave home and put it in my bag. That's possible. And then when I get home, I can switch them all back to Arca, but I don't want to do that. I just want my camera to always be ready no matter what, for whatever. I don't want to have to switch out plates every time. It's just so great to not have that to worry about, to not have to worry, to have to remember to switch plates. Just one plate fits everything. Another odd item that came along that I really needed, and it would just make life easier. And when I went to first look for this, it was actually very hard to find. I have noticed it's a lot easier to find now, and more people are making it. And that item is an archetype mount with a cold shoe mount on it. And you may be watching this right now and thinking, why do I need this? And I'll be honest with you, I don't remember why I originally needed this. But it does get used a lot. It's even got a hole in the bottom to screw on anything to. You can screw it on your friction arm, you can screw it anything with that size bolt, and you can put anything that you have that has a cold shoe accessory and put it on there. Something I've used this for if I was out shooting photos. As I said before, I always have a monopod with me, but of course I'm not always using that monopod. And when I shoot outdoors even, I have my key light and I have my backlight. I have a stand for my key light, but I haven't been bringing one for my backlight because I'll put this mount on my monopod. I will mount my other flash onto this mount and I will take the pictures with this. And then when I need my monopod for my camera, I will just take this off, not use the backlight, and you have the monopod. And the great thing about that is I'm carrying around one less stand. I'm always gonna have my monopod on me, but I'm not gonna be using it the whole time. Only gonna be using it for certain things. So it's great to use something like this to just completely get use out of it. And same thing with the tripod. You might have your tripod with you all the time and you know that you're not gonna be using it the whole time you have it. Something like this just makes it to where almost anything can be used with this, and your tripod, your monopod becomes more versatile. Next, I want to talk about a couple of items that make shooting video handheld with a mirrorless or DSLR camera a whole lot easier. First off is a cold shoe handle, and this particular one is from SmallRig. I've used a few other handles that go into the cold shoes, and this one's actually been my favorite. And more of the reason why is, one, because of the grooves here on the knob, it's a lot easier to tighten. But then also, if you notice, it's got holes, and mine is missing right now, but there is an Allen key that magnetizes inside this little groove right here. I could take that out, put that Allen key inside of one of the holes at the knobs, and tighten it even more. I've had a few of these handheld mounts that I thought I got it on as tight as I possibly could, and the camera still slid off. So having that Allen key wrench that just gives me that little extra torque just to even tighten it down a little bit more, I don't feel like I have anything to worry about. Then another thing that really helps, let's say you need to do handheld footage and you got to hold the camera actually up a little higher, and having your handle and trying to hold your camera up like that's kind of awkward with a handle. So for those times I have to hold up my camera a little higher, I like to have Peak Design's clutch on the side of my camera. And what this does is it allows me to not have a firm grip on the grip of my camera. I can slide this in and just have a loose grip or even no grip on my camera, and the clutch just holds the camera to my hand, and I can get a lot more steady footage and less shake because I'm not gripping the camera. I'm just letting the weight of the camera stabilize itself. I don't have this to mention in this video, but Peak Design's ecosystem for all their kind of straps and stuff for cameras, their camera straps, their wristbands, all of that, great to have. I highly recommend them. The reason I'm not mentioning them in this video is because those are probably tools that you've already considered or already have or purchased early on. Most everybody thinks they need a camera strap when they buy something, or a camera wrist strap. So you probably already have one. You may already have Peak Designs, and if you don't have Peak Designs, you should really try them out. And if you don't have Peak Design's clutch, you really should check that out. The next thing on the list is something I know people actually consider all the time. It's something that all new photographers do consider and think of and look up, and a lot of new photographers neglect because they think it's silly or they don't want to have to carry it around. But it's something that is so necessary, and is something that I guarantee you, maybe not on every job, maybe not on every outing, but you're gonna wish you had something, and that's just something to mount your camera on. I suggest always having a monopod with you. The one thing I do have a hard time with having a monopod is, well, a decent monopod is not gonna be small enough to be strapped to the side of your book bag. It will be something you kind of have to do carry. Now, if you don't like the idea of having to carry around a monopod and you need a small enough tripod, three-legged thing makes a great travel size tripod that fits into most things. Peak Design even has a very nice small tripod. The only problem is it's fairly pricey. Peak Designs is a pretty expensive tripod. This one from Three-Legged Thing, it's a lot cheaper than Peak Designs, and it fits very well into your book bag. It's not too heavy, and if you ended up going out and not using it, it really doesn't feel like a burden to have had. And now another thing on the list, and maybe this is something you did consider, or maybe again you'd seen it but you didn't know what it was for, but it's another item I just don't feel like you should neglect and you should always have near you, and always use. It's something that even I do forget to use myself every time, and I regret not using it every time. I will tell you, this will make your job easier in the editing, especially coloring. And that is just simply having a small little gray card or white card with you to just take a picture of it, or just put it in your scene, start filming, put it in your scene for a few seconds, take it out. That way when you go, you can use a color picker in your editing software and choose this, and this will help set the color temperature to the proper thing. Also, all types of cameras, Sony, Canon, Nikon, all of them, they do have a calibration. They all have a feature where you can hold up a gray card like this, take a picture of it, and the camera will automatically set the white balance to what it deems it needs to be. Or something else you can have besides a gray card is a spider checker. And this is another great tool. It's a little bit smaller, especially if you're using multiple cameras, and especially if those multiple cameras are different brands, like you're shooting with a Sony and a Canon. This is a great idea to have, and I do intend to show how in a video one day when I talk about editing and stuff. But as you can see here, for photography or video, you still have your white and your gray. And what I like to do is, even with the gray card, I like to take a picture or film both sides of the card, and then I'll take my color picker in Adobe or in Lightroom or in Photoshop and click on both of these and just pick whichever I feel looks best for the scene when it adjusts the warmth and the tint of the video or photo. And then another thing I like to have in regards to white balance is actually an app on your phone, is to find a white balance app. Now, I'm an Android user, I have a Google Pixel. The app that I really like to use and I found has been very reliable is Light Spectrum. It's a free app, and what's great about this, if you're in an environment with very mixed lighting, you got a lot of daylight coming in with a lot of tungsten bulbs or with fluorescent bulbs. And trust me, in a case with mixed lighting, you do not want to use auto white balance. Using auto white balance has made my job harder in editing, because I've had times just all of a sudden, it would just change tints and hues, and it would change from warm to cold all of a sudden in the middle of my footage, and I would have to go and try to match that. So I always suggest, especially if you're doing an interview type where the camera's not going to be moving, just set your white balance so it's not moving all over the place. And so what's great about these apps is you just open up the app, it uses your camera, point your phone camera into the scene that you want to shoot, and it will tell you the Kelvin temperature of the room and what you should set your camera to. And ever since I've started using that, it has made my footage look so much better. I love to use that. It's a wonderful tool. Go and download that app. And for setting custom white balance and everything, I have an older video that I did last year that talks about that. And I plan to remake that video one day, to be honest. But if you want more information about setting your own manual settings as far as white balance, go check out my video. And the very last thing, thinking of phones that's just great to have on you, is a portable charger. Again, this is probably something, we've all considered, we all looked at, we all thought was probably a good idea to have. And maybe because of the prices of a good one, maybe you haven't bought one, you thought you'll manage. I would suggest go ahead and buy one. You want your phone working at all times. And there have been times, for whatever circumstances, I had to use my phone to take pictures. When you're traveling from location to location, you're using your phone's GPS and everything. Sometimes your phone doesn't get charged between point A to point B, and you just don't want your phone to die. You need your phone to be on and working as you're out, as you're doing gigs. And the worst feeling is when your phone dies in the middle of a gig and you have nowhere to plug it in, nowhere to do. So be sure to grab one. In the description below, all these items will be listed with a link to my kit page for you to go and to see all these items and check them out for yourselves. I'm sure if you have any of these items, you would agree with me that these items are fantastic to have and they have been lifesavers. So go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what ones you have and how it has helped you and how it has saved the day, basically. If there's something that you use and you find very helpful and you don't like to leave or go to a job without, and I didn't mention it, let me know. I'm always looking for that next item that will just make my life as a filmmaker and photographer easier. So please, let me know anything at all, any tool that makes your job just 1,000 times easier. I'd love to know. So please send any suggestions my way, and hopefully we can get enough and I can make another video like this about these kind of small, quirky little tools. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully it was helpful. So hope you got some ideas. And if you don't mind, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel for more content like this, and love to hear any comments that you have. See you next time.